Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for being early birds and getting out to an 8 o'clock presentation on the first day after traveling and different time zones and all of that stuff. I really appreciate you being here. I will have another presentation tomorrow at 11:50 about I'm not afraid of writing anymore. So if you are interested in hearing about that as well, that will be tomorrow and not so early. So this one's about I'm not afraid of math anymore, a quick guide to the HiSET math test. And if you haven't scanned the code, you'll have another opportunity in a little bit. And so I'm Susan Bernard. I've been an adult ed teacher for 22 years, and I'm the high school equivalency coordinator for the Oklahoma City Community College. And I'm also the author and publisher of the I'm Not Afraid Anymore series. So I have math, writing, I have a little bit for reading and social studies. I have extra new materials for science, so it is a whole series. Okay, so in 1987, McDonald's decided to start offering the supersize fries and supersize soft drinks. Does anybody remember that? And so when you place an order, they would always say at the end, if you didn't already order that supersize, then they would say, would you like to supersize that? But in 2004, they decided to do away with that because it's not the healthiest option. And most people didn't want all those extra calories. And our students are that same way. They don't really want a supersize class with lots and lots of things to learn. They just want a happy meal. They want to learn enough to pass their high school equivalency test and go on to their next step. And why? Well, adults have many responsibilities and their time is especially important to them. We need to help them reach their HSE goal as quickly as possible. It's not like just, kindergarten through 12th grade where their main responsibility in life is to go to school. Adults, you already know this, but they are managing jobs and families and things like that in addition to going to school. And we don't really need to teach them everything that they missed out on from kindergarten through 12th grade. We just can't do that. There's just not enough time. And so I shifted my perspective, and we are having amazing success at the Oklahoma City Community College. So I used to think that I did want to teach them something about everything that I thought they might see on a high school equivalency test. And so I would look at all the practice tests that came out, and I wanted to make sure I had something, to go with all of that. But I came to the conclusion a couple of years ago that it was too much and that we needed to pare it down and just teach them enough to be successful. So here's statistics from the Oklahoma City Community College for our last fiscal year. So we had 226 students that took the HiSET math test, and 203 students passed it. So that was a 90% pass rate. And the students that took the math test, usually they passed an official practice test, before they would go take the real test. So I'm not saying that every single student that enrolls in our program, will pass the test, because we all know there's lots of factors in their attendance and all those kinds of things. But we do have really good success when they stick around long enough to learn, and we can get them through it fairly quickly. Okay, so meet James. James is a 17-year-old who suffered from the pandemic online learning. He became overwhelmed and fell far behind. Looking for a better solution, his mom helped him enroll into my HiSET math class that I was teaching in the fall. Now James is encouraged and sees a future of success. He recently told me, this math is 8 times easier than high school. And I thought, really? That's a lot easier, but that's what he said. So I'm giving you his words. We do know, though, it's easier than, what they're actually teaching in high school. Okay, so who is this Math Quick Guide for? So it's for students who plan to take the HiSET math test. I do have GED math materials as well, but this one's focused on the math. And what is it? It's targeted lessons to prepare students for the half-length HiSET official practice tests, so the OPT 10 and the OPT 11. Now, you may know that PSI produced some new practice tests that came out. The free one came out last March, and then the PPT 8 and the OPT 12 came out in the fall. But those last two are full length. And so this is still correlating with those half-length ones that were, the latest prior to that. Okay. And does everybody in the room, do you teach HiSET? Okay, great. Okay. So, like I said, I do have some GED math materials. There's going to be some similarities, and there's going to be some differences. Okay. All right, so what are some of the features? So we also have a printable version with print-friendly cover. So you saw the one that was, almost all green, but I have a printable version where you could print your own, and then you just got a more plain cover, and that doesn't take so much, color when you're printing. Okay, and this whole printable version is also projectable, and that makes it easy to use in a Zoom class or like a Google Meet class. And this printable version also saves your program money. So instead of just buying all the individual textbooks, you get permission to print it as much as you want. So that can save you a lot of money. All right. And we also have a separate answer key that shows complete solutions, not just a list of answers. And that's really important for the students to be able to see, kind of what step they went wrong on if they missed it. Something else I have is a correlation between the quick guides questions and the official practice tests, those 10 and 11 that I was talking about. So in the one on the top, in the brown column, you see questions 1 through 25 of the practice test. And matching up with that is the lessons in the textbook. And then in the second one, it goes in the order of the lessons in the textbook, and then it matches up with the practice test questions. So if you're, working through the book and you're wondering, well, which practice test questions go along with that, you would look at the second one. But if you're looking at the practice test and you're thinking, how should we work this, then you can see the lesson, that would go along with that. Okay, and these are all for the OPT 10, and then I have another set that goes with the OPT 11. Okay, so this is my website. And so it is I'm Not Afraid Publications.com, but you'll see that again in a few moments. And if you just scroll down on the home page or click on that view or purchase products, then you would see this. And so this category in the middle is the GED and the HiSET in English. I do have some materials also in Spanish. and students could buy their own copy too, but this one in the middle is where you could view or purchase the GED and the HiSET products. So you will, as you view, you can see, sample pages. So I'm going to be showing you parts of sample pages, but getting on your own computer and looking at those sample pages in the website could maybe make it be larger. Some of you are sitting way back there. Some of you on Zoom might be, on a smaller device, and it would be harder to see all of this. Okay, so there is the web address again. I'm not afraid publications.com. You can also just search, I'm not afraid of math anymore. And if you want to purchase with a purchase order, you can go to that one right there. And can also ask for a quote. And there could be volume discounts too. So I'm happy to do a quote for you. Okay. And now if you purchase it either directly online in the category that I showed you earlier, or even if you purchase with a purchase order, the files are downloadable so you can get your order more quickly. The process is a little different between purchasing it through the website and purchasing it through a purchase order, but both ways have options for just downloading the files and not having to wait for me to ship it to you. Okay, so we're ready to start looking at what is in the quick guide. And after we do that, I'm going to show you some free resources that are available on my website. And we're going to have a drawing. And we're going to, if we have time, play one of the Kahoot quizzes that go along with all of this. So do I have any questions before I start showing you things more specifically about what's in that quick guide? And are there any? Okay, we have a question.
What's the grade level for your publications?
So I haven't had that analyzed for a long time, but definitely it's not, like high school level, but it still, teaches those concepts they need for the high school equivalency test. I could probably get back with you on that if it's important to you. Okay. Yeah. Yes, I would think so. And you can kind of judge that yourself too, as you look at the sample pages. Like you might not have an actual grade level, but you can look at the sample pages and see that kind of thing. Okay, so we have 6 sections. And there is a lot of color in the quick guide, even if you do the printable version that just, has the more plain cover. Inside, there's a lot of color. I do, if you're here in person, I do have samples that you could look at afterward. I would like to hold it up here, but doing this through Whova is a little more complicated than doing it through regular Zoom. So if you are joining us by Zoom this morning, or if you're watching this later when the videos are uploaded, the best thing to get to see what things look like is to just go to the website and look at the sample pages. Okay. So info about each section is given in the introduction to that section. So like for the first section, numbers and their operations, it tells the students that 19% of the questions on the HiSET math test are from that category, and that will be about 10 of the 55 questions. So it helps them to know sort of how important that section is in the overall picture of, all the categories of math. And if there's, something that they're still struggling with in any one category, kind of helps them to see, well, this is just one little piece. And maybe there's a whole lot of other things that they could learn that, make more sense to them. Then also, even in the first lesson, we've got this encouragement that it isn't the smartest student who succeeds, it's the one who overcomes all the obstacles. So I love putting things like this in there because they do need encouragement, as we go along. Okay, and then some of the questions are marked as challenge questions. Can you all see back there okay? I meant to try to encourage you all to come closer so you could see a little better, but I forgot to do that. But the challenge questions are identified, and they're usually a little more difficult, and they also usually correlate more with the official practice test 11. And so these questions could be skipped with lower level students, and that's pretty much what we do at our college. We are a large program, so we do have the privilege of being able to have like a level 1 that's lower level and a level 2 that's, a higher level. So our level 2 classes go through the material more quickly, and they do these challenge questions in our level 1 classes, and also because we have to kind of stick to the college schedule. So our classes are 8 weeks long. So in our lower level, then we often skip these challenge questions, and we give them that official practice test 10 at the end of that class to, determine how ready they are to take the HiSET test. Now, if anybody has a question along the way, just let me know. Yes. Just a second. But for the Zoom people.
It's for the Zoom. Oh, okay, yeah. Do you give both classes the practice test at the end of the 8 weeks, or do you just do it the advanced class?
No, we definitely do it with our lower level students too. And so we do have lower level students who are succeeding in this. It's not just the higher level.
Sure,
students.
sure. Okay, so it's not like you finish the first level, now you go to the second level.
And we used to do that a long time ago
Okay.
because I also do have a pre-HSE math book, which we actually, at our level 1, we very quickly go through most of that pre-HSE math book at the very beginning, and then we move into this quick guide. But because of some funding issues a few years back, we went ahead and just kind of reorganized, and we made both our level 1 and level 2 classes that led to the test.
Okay.
And the biggest difference is the pace that we go at. And also, like I said, in those lower level classes, just skipping over some of those more challenging things, because it goes back to, we're not trying to supersize those kinds of classes.
Sure.
We're trying to teach them enough to pass. So, some people would say, well, are you teaching to the test? So, more or less, yes.
Right.
But we're looking at it as we're helping them reach one goal, and they're going to feel successful. And then my big philosophy I've had for so many years is that success breeds success. So if we can help them to get success in one thing, they're going to be more likely to take on something else.
Yeah. So maybe the first level wouldn't do as well on the HiSET test, but their goal was to pass. So that,
Yes.
Okay.
And that's a very good point. Like our goal for them might be to just score that 8, which is the minimum passing score, in case you're not familiar with HiSET. But I mean, sometimes they're definitely scoring, above the 8 in that lower level class. But then our higher level classes typically score at that college level, like the 15 to 20 range. So a lot of that is difference in score and difference in pace and that kind of thing. Okay, good question. All right, so the instruction is often non-traditional and uses easier methods. So you see an example here of the percent formula that I use, and it's just whole times percent equals part. And so they can use that formula if they're trying to determine, how much, like 75% is, that would be the part. Or if they're needing to figure out what the percent would be, or if they're given the percent of the part and they need to figure out the whole. So I also have something that goes with this printable book that's called foldables. And so we've got this on a foldable. They fold it, they cut on the solid lines, and then there's the 3 flaps. And then whatever thing they're needing to look for, that's the one they lift up. And so this is a hands-on thing that is especially good for those lower level students because it's tactile kinesthetic. It's also a good thing to use, for them to review before they take the test. And so, again, I have samples, like I have foldables. I don't know if, can you see this on the Zoom? You can? Awesome. Okay. So, Zoom screen, the rest of you. Okay, these are not folded, but, there are several here. Okay. All right, so then we begin a new section and we change to a new color. So there's all kinds of color coding in here. The first section was blue. This section is a rose color. And there at the bottom, you see that there's the information about this particular category, and 18% of the questions come in this category. I'm used to doing annotating with my Zoom, but I don't think that's available when we're doing it through the Whova app. So, okay. And then here's another example, like question 26 is patterned after an OPT 10 question. But what I did to make it easier for the students to understand how to work this kind of problem is that I emphasized some of the words in bold type, and it helped them to, understand the differences between the answer choices. So I know you can't see all the details of this really well, from back there, maybe not even from the first rows. So again, I invite you to go to the website to see the pages better. Okay, and here's the third section. It's geometry. The color changes to orange. We've got the information at the bottom again about how much of this category is on the test. And then here is something from lesson 6, the formulas for perimeter, area, and volume. And so I have both the formulas as they would find them on the HiSET formula sheet, but also an easier formula that could be memorized better. And I love this. The Pythagorean theorem is shown as the area of 2 smaller squares being equal to the area of the larger square. So, we know a squared plus b squared equals c squared, but have we ever thought about it's really just the area of that a square plus the area of that b square that is equal to the area of that c square? So this shows that, visually. And that can help the students remember the formula better too, because that is not on the formula sheet. Okay, and then we get to algebra. So you may already know that algebra is 45% of the HiSET math test. And they do have 3 sections of algebra in the quick guide. So we have algebra expressions, algebra equations, and algebra functions. So with the algebra expressions, we start off with that umbrella. So sometimes the word expression is used very generally, and it can mean kind of like any math sentence. And other times an algebra expression means there's no equal sign and no total. So there's kind of 2 different types of algebra expressions, and this helps to clarify that. And I try to make connections to common things that help the students to understand. So got pictures here of a unicycle, a bicycle, and a tricycle to help them understand these prefixes of the monomial, binomial, and trinomial. And just as much as possible, I try to, again, just make those connections and just use easy, common words, trying to connect back to, their level where they are. And then there's a lot of color coding. Here we see multiplying binomials and using the FOIL method for that. So you see all the different steps on the top row, kind of spread out, but then we see it all together there in the middle. And then we have more examples at the bottom. Okay, and since all the HiSET math questions have multiple choice answers, students can learn a shortcut for factoring trinomials. So trying to teach factoring can be challenging, but we can teach them to use a shortcut and sort of a process of back solving with that. And they don't have to learn the factoring, but along with the printable version, there's also extended lessons that I'm not really showing you any sample pages of today, but in there, like I do have a lesson on factoring trinomials where, they can learn that whole process instead of just this back solving type. So that would be, those extended lessons would be for your higher level students, just to maybe help them be a little more prepared for college or, to get those higher scores. And I say all that, but we don't use it at OCCC. We just stick to the quick guide and we still get college level scores quite often. Okay, and then here we go with algebra equations. All of the algebra sections are green. And we've got the balanced scale. And now my quick guide is more like a textbook and a workbook combination. So especially in the algebra, I leave some space where they can show their work. So if you've got the printable version and you print the whole thing, for your students, and they've got space to write in their answers in some places that's really good, instead of just trying to put it in a spiral notebook or something, and then remembering, to match that up with the actual lesson. Okay, and the last section is algebra functions. And I used to think that this was too complex for those lower level students. And so for a few years, we didn't try to teach them any functions at all. And again, we were just going for that passing score of 8. And then one day it just dawned on me that this is really not as hard as we thought it was. And so we started teaching quite a few things about algebra functions for those students. And that's, helped them to get those passing scores. Okay, and I love this page. It is kind of like a flow chart showing the progression of a function. So it starts up there in the top right corner, a word problem. And then from there, it can be written into an equation form. So this example just has a very simple word problem, a very simple equation. From there, we create a table of values. That table of values is the points. And so then the last step is to be able to graph those points. And so they can see how it all flows together before we dive into each of those parts, more specifically. And so this is an example of the lesson where we can show them with color coding and step-by-step instruction how they can identify the function equation that goes with a linear function graph. So how many of you feel real competent about math your own self, as opposed to you kind of struggle to understand it all yourself? How many of you feel pretty confident? Just raise your hand. And in the chat, you can answer that question as well. Okay, so then that was quite a few of you, but not every hand. So this quick guide makes it easier for teachers to understand how to teach the math. We hired one teacher a few years ago to teach in a rehab facility. And she said, I'm not going to teach math, so it's like, okay. So she was hired to teach the writing, the reading, the social studies, the science, those things that are so much more reading comprehension based. And then a little bit later, she was saying, well, I just need to teach these guys math, So, so we gave her, the math book version that I had at the time. And she told me later, I wish you had been my teacher in high school, because it was so much easier for her to understand with all the common language instead of all that high level academic language. So yeah, she teaches all the subjects now and has a very, very successful class. And then at the end, on the back cover, if it's the printable version, and if it's the version that's already printed, it's inside. But here are 7 test-taking tips for HiSET success, because it's not all just about understanding the math. It's also about knowing how to use the flag for the computer-based test, to, temporarily skip a question and moving through, focusing on their strengths, answering the easier questions first, coming back to those more difficult ones later, and just several different things to be thinking about here. So on the printable version, I just put it on the back cover because I want it to be really easy for them just to flip that over and to, be reminded of those strategies, because I feel like the strategies are every bit as important as the actual math that they need to learn. Okay. Do we have any questions before I go into the next section of free resources? Okay. All right. So on my website, there are math videos. So that is definitely free to anybody that wants to access it. There are now 35 math videos. So the ones with the black background go along with those foldables that I was holding up. So it explains what's on the foldable. And you can think of the foldables as being sort of lessons in a nutshell. But also I created foldables where there were things that had some similarities and some differences. So we could kind of see how some things compare and how they contrast. So like, for instance, that percent one, whole times percent equals part. Well, it all goes together. All 3 of those ingredients, the whole amount, the percent, the part, they all go together, but you do slightly different things for finding any one of those. And so it shows the differences, but it shows how it is alike. The ones with the gray background are videos that I have recently created that go along with the HiSET Math FPT 8 practice test that came out last March. That is a free practice test. So I won't ever have videos on my website that go with paid practice tests or official practice tests. Only the free ones that they've made freely available to all of us. So there are 25 questions on there on that test, and I have 19 videos. I may at some point in the future go ahead and work on the last 6, but those are more challenging. And these 19 could help students to understand a large portion of that practice test. And if someone were to get 19 out of 25 questions, they would be getting a high score. And I have used animation in these, so things will like appear. So there's a different approach to the videos. The foldable ones with the black background, students will see me actually like writing on the screen, or like if you've ever seen Khan Academy, how I think his name's Sal, does that. It's similar to that. But on the gray background ones, the HiSET Math FPT videos, you don't see me writing, But again, you just see things appearing. And then I also did that on this one in the corner there that says foil. So I have several examples where they see that process, step by step with things just appearing in the right colors. And so that's a really cool one that I am really happy that I have now. Okay, so also I have Kahoot quizzes, and I have Kahoot quizzes for every subject. So math, writing, reading, social studies, and science. Here you see some of the ones for the math. So I have 14. Also, the pre-HSE math has its own Kahoot quizzes. So those would be, a little easier. Okay, so how many of you use Kahoot, or at least you know how to use Kahoot? Okay, awesome. So I think we got it, something maybe in the chat. Something popped up. Oh, somebody raised a hand online. Okay. Okay. Karen, okay, we'll get to your question in just a second here. Okay, so I didn't know I was gonna be able to see it like that. That's cool. Okay, so if you want to get the Kahoot quizzes, you would just go to kahoot.com and click on Discover. And then one thing you can do is just all together there with that hashtag, I'm not afraid of math anymore, then you would see all of them. That's also going to bring up my pre-HSC math Kahoot quizzes and the ones that are in Spanish. But that would just be the easiest way to find, all of the math ones. And then it's the same kind of thing for writing and reading and all that. You just put that other word in instead. Also on my website, there are specific instructions on, how to find the Kahoot quizzes if that's something you're not real familiar with. Okay, all of a sudden it's not advancing.
Click on your PowerPoint.
Do what?
Just click on your PowerPoint.
Okay. Okay, yeah. Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and have a drawing here in just a moment for printable and projectable math quick guide, but also we're going to draw, before that, we're going to draw a name. I didn't think to change this for an actual, physical book. So if you're a winner here in the room, you get to take that home with you today. And if the winner is online, then I will ship it to you. So we have a little I'm Not Afraid Anymore bag right here. And sorry, Zoom people. Oh, there was that question. Yeah, what was her question?
She was raising her hand that she uses.
Oh, Kahoot. Okay, yes. That happened yesterday. Oh, and then yesterday's.
The QR code again?
Yes, that's coming.
Okay.
Okay, so let me go ahead. So here's the QR code. If you came in a little bit later and you hadn't done it, or maybe you didn't want to do it in the beginning, but you do now, you can go to that QR code, give me a little bit of information, and get in the drawing. And then while we're giving just a few moments for anybody that hasn't got to do that yet to get in on it, then you can see here is the textbook, the answer key, and then there is a quick guide review at the end. Okay, and for those of you in the room, so you can see a little better. Okay. So, does anybody have any more questions that I could answer while we give just a few moments here for some people to get in the drawing before it's too late? Or any comments? Does anybody think this is something that might make your life a little easier and the lives of your students a little easier? Good for the drawing?
Your wheel is ready. Your wheel is.
Okay. Okay. So, all right, so we're gonna do the drawing and then we are gonna play a HiSET Kahoot. So we're gonna do this one right here. So I'm gonna get out of this PowerPoint and try to figure out where to get my glasses. They are. Okay. Okay. That is everyone who has gone to the QR code. Let's see, there's a way to, oh yes, full screen right there. Okay, everybody ready for this? Okay. So the first one's going to be for the actual book that's printed already. Ooh, okay, Mary Jo Gale, are you in the room? Oh, the first one that came in this morning. All right, congratulations. Yeah. Okay. All right. And we'll go around one more time to see who will win a printable version. It's a $250 value. And that is Brian Koch. Are you in the room? All right. Okay, so I have your email address. So I will send you the link to download the files. So you have 5 days to download them. Do you want me to wait till after COAVE is over? Yeah, that's what I thought. We're at the beginning. So, and you know, if something happens and you don't get it within that 5 days, I can resend it, you know, you just have to let me know. All right. And tell us where you're from, Ryan. Kansas. All right. Okay, so we're going to do a Kahoot quiz now. So you can see what that looks like. Okay, so all right, so there's the game pin. Is there anybody that does not? Okay, trying to get to this. It's being. Is there anybody that does not know how to play Kahoot? That we can help you? Okay, can you show them, Jamie? So the participants can go in a browser to kahoot.it, or if you have the Kahoot app downloaded already, that's really good. I have found that if somebody's doing it through the Kahoot app, it's less likely to drop out because of Wi-Fi issues. And you can do Kahoot quizzes, letting each student, you know, play alone, or you can have teams. Like if you're concerned about somebody missing questions and not wanting them to feel bad about that, then you could pair people up. Or when I first started using Kahoot, before COVID came around, we would do 3 or 4 people together as a team with a team leader. And then after COVID and 6 feet apart, everybody was doing it by themselves. And if you're online, you can certainly join in with this. Okay, is there anybody in the room that's still trying to get in? And is there anybody online still trying to get in? Okay, I think we're good. Okay, I tried to choose one of my easier Kahoots since none of you have actually looked at any of the quick guide lessons. So this is tables, graphs, and data sampling. And there's only 6 questions on this one. Some of the Kahoot quizzes have considerably more. Okay, tables show information in rows only, rows and columns, columns only, or in a graph. You understand? They understand how to answer. Do they understand how to answer? Okay. All righty. So 9 people got it correct that it's rows and columns. So a table is showing information in rows and columns, not a graph. Okay, good job. Okay, let's see, this thing's going to be in the way. I'll just try to put it right there. Okay. All right, so if you are not real familiar with Kahoot, not only having correct answers, gets points, but answering more quickly gets higher points. But I try to emphasize to my students, I'm not all that concerned about you answering real quickly. I'm just, concerned that you can get the right answer. And sometimes the questions are fairly easy just because we want them to feel good and successful. And then some are more challenging. Okay, number 2. The vertical scale on bar graphs always begins at 0. True or false? Okay, and I see Shaquana and one other, that you raised hands. But my helper is back there with someone else. So, Jamie, I think we have some questions on the chat. Perhaps. Okay. So this one is a trickier question, but if the students had done the lesson in the quick guide, they would know that the scale doesn't always begin at 0. So I can't really back up to show you that graph that was just there, but at the bottom it said 50, not 0. And so, this one is a little bit tricky, but I had seen something like that on an official practice test. So I wanted them to be aware that they need to pay attention, because on the official practice test, it was comparing like one bar with another bar. And so it looked like one was twice as tall as the other one, but that really wasn't what was going on, because it was starting at 50, not at 0. So when you, in your mind, when you went down to 0, you would see, yeah, this one's taller than the other one, but not twice as tall. So again, just getting to do the lesson first would have made a difference there. Okay. Trying to find a place for that. Okay, those of you who are in the room, you're seeing the Zoom controls that, the Zoom people are not seeing. Excuse me. Okay, the percent formula can be used with oh, okay. So on a phone, you'll just see the red, gold, blue, and green. I didn't remember that, but you'll just touch the color of the correct answer. Okay, awesome. And of course, we had that big hint there because we saw a circle graph. Okay. So thank you for that question from chat. All right. Kevin's in the lead at this moment. Okay, a circle graph always shows. Okay,
Answer choices are red, only the whole amount, gold, only the smaller parts, blue, only the larger parts, green, the whole amount and its parts. A circle graph always shows.
okay. So it is the whole amount and its parts. And prior to COVID, you could only do Kahoot like we're doing it right now, where the teacher is, hosting the quiz. Nowadays, though, students can find a quiz and play it by themselves, and then they do see the answers in there, in addition to just those colors. And so that's super cool. And so we make sure that our students know how they can go back and, repeat those quizzes, on their own time. All right, a sample of data is needed when
Red option, there is a small group to survey. Blue, there is a large group to survey.
good. Sometimes we have students that miss this, so following up with a Kahoot quiz helps to reinforce that idea of what random sampling is all about. All right, last question. Results from data samples will be more accurate when the sample is taken.
Red, quickly, gold, randomly, blue, carelessly, green, accidentally.
Okay, and of course that is randomly. All right, now after each question, you can make those be, teachable moments, just like I've been kind of adding some comments. So sometimes there'll be problems. There'll be a few problems in there. So you might want to go to the board and show, how to work that. Most of the time, the questions are more like concept kind of questions, conceptual, more like what you've just seen in this quiz. Okay, so here's our winner's podium. Third place is B, whoever B is. And second place is Jess. And first place is Kevin. Okay, is Kevin in the room? All right, yay. Is Jess in the room? Yay. And is B in the room? All right. And you never played before, but you figured it out and you are one of our winners. Okay, now let me get out of all of this. Okay, so just to give you a little glimpse, since we still have a little bit of time, like these are all my folders. So again, I do have Kahoot quizzes in like all of these subjects. So like here's all my reading ones and all that. They're pretty easy to identify when you're like doing the discover or searching because they always have that black background, which is kind of like, the students are in the darkness and we're giving them light, teaching them how to do these things with, easier curriculum. And so that's the idea behind that. Okay, do I have any more questions? Okay. All right. So I tried to pare this down a little bit so we would have plenty of time, and it looks like I for sure did that. So we have a little extra time to get to the general session. All right, thank you for coming. If anybody wants to look at, like the printable version, I think I have a folder up here. Can you see this on there? Okay, so we do folders for our students. So we've got like the printable book and the answer key. Over here, we put practice tests and foldables. So, all right. Thank you so much for coming out so early. And join me tomorrow if you'd like. Okay. Are you ready?